All right. Hello, everyone. So let's see. I don't think the slides have come up yet. But hey, so my name is James. I am a principal architect over at Headstorm, a small boutique consulting firm located here in Dallas. And I'm going to be telling you today about a cool tool called Dagger for building CI pipelines. And it's really early days, but I find a lot of interesting things about it, so I want to try and share that with you in what is probably entirely too small amount of time. So we'll see how much we can get done here. So just a rough agenda, just going to go through some interesting things about Dagger, what it's for, what it's trying to solve. I will show you a little bit of an example from some code snippets, which hopefully will be able to be seen by the folks in the back, but we'll see how it goes. So let's start by what Dagger is. So this is a quote from one of the founders. Dagger is a portable dev kit for CI/CD pipelines. It allows DevOps engineers to build powerful CI/CD pipelines quickly, then run them anywhere. And so like that, for me, is a pretty compelling use case in and of itself. But what they're really trying to do, if you look at it this way, as Terraform is to infrastructure as code, what they're trying to make is Dagger the same thing, but for pipelines as code. A platform agnostic tool for building pipelines that should provide a better developer experience than what we are used to today. And so Dagger, the key components of Dagger really are, underpinnings are Docker, as well as a language out of Google called Q. It's a configuration language that I'll tell you more about shortly. So those two pieces combined amount to Dagger. So going back to the problem that it's trying to solve, one is portability, and this is something that may not be necessarily a problem for a lot of people. You know, for me, I have a lot of different clients. They have a lot of different build systems. It's a bit of a pain sometimes to interoperate between and move back and forth between different ones. But at least on the developer experience front, I think this is something that we can all relate to, which is that building pipelines with a lot of providers is painful. YAML's not very fun. Every vendor has their own kind of unique flavor. It's not easy to do. And then again, yes, YAML. They're trying to solve the problem of YAML because YAML is not a programming language. It's a data transport language. It doesn't have a lot of features that you would expect a real programming language to have. And so it is it's lacking in a number of ways. So let's talk a little bit more about the things about Docker that Dagger really cares about. Really, it is a thin veneer around BuildKit, which is a technology that Docker introduced a number of years ago for streamlining the way that they build containers. And so it has some interesting things, and being able to do custom front ends, kind of a bytecode layer, and it's really neat. But with that, what you get is the ability to introduce layering and caching into your builds. And I think that this is kind of interesting, but it makes me a little bit nervous, honestly, because I've been bit many times about clean builds. And I'll talk more about that later. But so for Q is a language that is not YAML, which is a big plus. It's a configuration language, and it has a standard set of features that you expect from a programming language, including, next slide, string interpolation, templating, static type checking. It has a package system, which of course YAML doesn't, and it's decidedly not YAML. And so all these are pluses in my book. So what's not so great about Dagger right now? So it is early days, and so it doesn't really do a whole lot yet. I did mention that it does at least have support for caching. And like that's really nice, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that when I talk through my example. But right now, it is still very, very early. And the key thing I think that's going to kind of stymie adoption, at least initially, is its lack of integrations. Like if you want to run this in Jenkins or GitHub or whatever, you're going to have more fine-grained control over it than you really want to. So let me show a couple of quick examples from a Dagger plan file. So this is just an example. It shows the integration with Docker, being able to pull a specific image, copy code into that container, kind of standard stuff that you would expect. But it shows that it has a very tight integration with Docker. And this is just an example of the build step that I have for a sample library that I have. All it is just running Gradle, taking some outputs and exporting them into the temporary cache that you can use between build steps. And then finally, this is just showing how you choose which outputs you want to take from some of your intermediary build steps and export them back into your host machine, because all this is running inside Docker containers. Okay, so in conclusion, like right now, this thing is very early, but it has a solid team. Like Docker has been a net positive for me for doing builds that are repeatable. It's solved a lot of problems for me. And so when we have folks that have that pedigree coming together to try and solve a problem like this, I pay attention. And so I'll leave you with this. If the tool agnostic distributed caching is enticing to you, then maybe go ahead and do a proof of concept for Dagger. Otherwise, just put it in the back of your mind, keep an eye on it. Next year, as it continues to evolve, I think it's going to be really interesting. And with that, I'll say thank you. I have a lot more to say about this, so if you want to get with me, just find me on the floor. I'm happy to talk about this or CI/CD pipelines generally. But thank you.